that's where you learn the market. Take care of the customer first. Do your research. You become an expert. That's a tattoo that's on my back. Take care of your customer and learn the market.
At what point did it become obvious to you that you were going to get into real estate?
Well, the education started when I was about 4 years old. When my dad, I'd be at the store and he'd, say, "Son, you want to walk around with me?" And I said, where are you going? What are we going to do? He said, well, we're going to go collect rent. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, I bought a few little rent houses and that are behind the store, and it'll help us get some passive income, in addition to what we make in the store. And the store was meager earnings because it had no parking. It was a walk up. And so it was amazing because they kept the store open every night, all their life, to Saturday night till 9:00, because the Fishman Laundry was across the street. It had about 600 people work there, and they get paid at noon. So they'd come over to the store. We sold money orders, and then they'd buy clothes for their kids or whatever they needed. And they stay open Saturday. I don't think they would have made it.
All right. Your first position, as I've read through it, was you were starting the farm and ranch division at Henry S. Miller?
No, that wasn't the first position.
Okay.
In my junior year, I wanted to get some experience in real estate. And I was very, very disappointed that Henry Miller had told me that I could work there as an intern. But, to check with him when I got out of school, but he was pretty sure that Charlie Jackson, the all-star halfback for SMU, who worked for him during the year, wasn't going to work in the summer. And so that's partly true and partly not true. But what happened is Charlie Jackson didn't work in the summer, and I called to get my job and start work, and Henry Miller was in Europe and left no message. And Vance Miller, his son, left no message.
Yeah.
He was gone he was a pilot. He was gone to training. And Henry Miller Sr., he was somewhere. He was gone too. And so I was so totally disappointed that they didn't leave a message that since Charlie Jackson wasn't going to work the summer, that he didn't leave a message that I was hired. So I went back home, was at home, and I was dejected. Thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take some real estate course over at SMU in the morning. And I'll just wait till Henry Miller gets back in town. I go over there the next day, and I registered at SMU. And leave there, going through Snyder Plaza, which is right near SMU. And I'd look up, and there's Ralph Porter Real Estate. See if he needs somebody. So I go walk in with my T-shirt and cutoffs, and this little lady about 80 years old, and she's so nice, and her name's Irma Langwin, and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm thought I had a job with a real estate company, but now I'm going to SMU in the morning. I get through at 11. I just wondered if I could help y'all in real estate." This is about a mile from my house. And she said, "Well, hold on a minute." She goes back to the back, comes back. She said, "Well, Mr. Porter will see you." I said, "Well, I didn't plan to see him right now. I'm not dressed appropriately." She said, "Well, come on back." Go back, and Buddy Porter, and I tell him the story. I was supposed to have a job. And he said, "Look, I'll hire you, and you can, I'll help you get your license, and I'll pay you $75 a month. And you post the receivables, was the duplexes, all the duplexes that we ran around SMU. We collect the rent. So you'll just post the rents." I said, "You got a deal." So that was my job for the summer. And so I'm there 3 or 4 days. I start, inquisitive me, what property you have listed. So I go through the listings that are posted, manually. And there's this one property. I said, "I just can't believe you got this property for sale." I said, "Who's the listing agent?" "Well, it's Irma Langwin up there." "Irma," I said, "what about this property here?" I said, "I grew up on Goodwin. This property was at the corner. I'd go up there every day. I could, and I'd sit there and I'd read Captain Marvel and Superman comic books for free in that little corner drugstore." I said, "Is this for sale?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "What's the price?" She said, "Well, I think it's $50,000.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "Well, okay, very good." So a couple days later, have a date. And I walk in, house to pick him a date. And father's there. And he says, he'd seen me before and he knew me. He says, what are you doing this summer? I said, I'm in real estate. He says, really? And he had a car lot on Ross Avenue, which Greenville turns into Ross, so it's not too far. And I said, yeah, I said, I'm going to learn all about it. He said, well, do you have anything for sale? I said, just happened we do. I said, there's a great little center right over here on Goodwin in Greenville. And I said, this got the drugstore at the corner. It's got the Greenville Avenue garage here. It's got a little Greenville Avenue grocery right in the middle of it. He said, well, I know that property. He said, well, can you get me the numbers? I said, absolutely. So I gave him the numbers. About 2 weeks, I've got him signed up on a contract.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So now, about a week later, not that I was after I'd seen him, I see somebody that my sister has friends that are coming back from the military. And I asked her, I said, keep your eyes open. She said, well, Mickey and Susan are coming back and they're going to need a house here. Why don't you call their mom? I called the mom and she says, well, I'll take a look at houses if you want to show me some houses. So I did research and showed her a house on Zillow she really liked. They come in about a week later. They said, we love this house. I said, okay. We were able to put that under contract on Azalea at Hillcrest at $26,000.
Oh my God.
So here I am about 3.5 weeks. I've got 2 properties under contract and I'm just on top of the world. I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna get out of school here and 6 weeks, I make about $7,000. And Mr. Porter, said he'd help me close them. That's great. Well, about that time, I get a call from Henry Miller about the third week. And he says, Herb, I'm so sorry I didn't leave you a message. He said, but Charlie Jackson, didn't work for us. And we got this position open for you. I said, Mr. Miller, you can't believe what's happened. I said, I've been here 3.5 weeks. I already got 2 properties under contract. And I said, I'm going to make $7,000 and I'm going to New York with my buddies and blow it all. And he says, really? He says, well, I think when you get out of college, we'll have a place for you. I said, well, great. I'm holding you to that. So that was it. I went to New York. We had a great time.
Blew it all?
Blew it all. And I finished my senior year and called him up. Yep, we got a job for you. Well, what we've been thinking about is we've been thinking about setting up a farm ranch division. Well, I didn't know what end the cow the head was on. And he said, would you like to head that up? I said, absolutely. So first day I went out, my dad from college, he promised me, because when I was 13, he promised me a motor scooter. He didn't keep his word, but he promised me a Chevy, what do you call it? Chevrolet. I forget the name, a small little Chevrolet. And so I gotten it. So man, I'm ready to roll. And so I go out and meet this farmer and I go up this farm road. This thing, it'd been raining. I didn't know it. The car bottomed out. So I had to walk to his house and he comes back, gets a tractor, pulls me out of the mud. And that was my entry into the farm ranch business.
Oh, and paint 2 pictures for us. One, how much do you think that center at on Goodwin is worth today? It was $50,000 back then. What would it sell for today?
Golly, probably. I know because we were involved in the sale of the other $5 million.
Okay, so 100x. And then where did ranch and farmland start back when you started up this division? People that are in at least DFW listening, where were farm and ranches in that they're no longer there?
It started at Royal Lane. Okay. It's now 30 miles north of, about 26 miles north of that.
Okay. All right. So you get stuck. How long did you stay in farm and ranch?
I stayed in farm and ranch. It was an evolution. One of my first customers, because I would get listings, and I went to Henry and I said, I think that what I need to do instead of, me spending every day out there traveling, trying to meet farmers, is get a list of all the tax addresses for every farm in Collin County, Denton County, Grayson County, all these areas. on the north side, and I'd send them a letter that I'm head of the Farm and Ranch Division, and I have a lot of buyers for your farms, and if you're interested in selling, send me the enclosed stamped envelope back. Man, I sent that in a letter to all these people where the tax building was sent. They started sending me those back, and that's how I got all the people that wanted to sell. And then I started advertising in the paper. I get listings and, it's Farm and Ranch section. And one day a guy calls me, and his name is Davis Crow. Well, it just happened to be Trammell Crow's brother, and I didn't know who Trammell Crow was at that time. And so Davis became a great customer of mine. And actually, we bought a farm in Greenville together. We went out one day, and it was pouring down raining. And he said, came by my house, picked me up, and he said, should we go out? And I said, yeah, let's go out. We'll be fine. So we go to the county seat at Delta County in Cooper, Texas, about hour and a half mile drive from Dallas. And we then asked, where's Farmer Jones' farm? So they told us, and we went there. Well, it ends up that, it's a mud road, and I've already had experience with the mud roads. So we decided we just walk up to the farm, and it was about maybe a half a mile, up the road, which wasn't too far. And so get there and look at the farm, and had a shack falling down. We walked back, and now it was raining, and we're both just dripping wet. We're hot. I had mud, about 5 times what my boot was. It was just stuck to it. So he looked at me and said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, why don't we buy it?" He says, "Okay." So we bought the farm, and we had a cotton farm out there, for a long time. And then we sold it for 4 times our money. But, I loved the evolution of that work, because people would say to me, "I don't want to buy something passive." And they said, "I'd like income properties." So I'd go work income properties. And then somebody would say, "I don't want to buy, land, or I don't need an investment right now, but I need you to help me move my company, or get me a building for my company." So I started to branch out, and every one of them I treated like a separate division, and became pretty good at each one, and successful in sales or leasing in each one. And that was the basis of my background. That gave me the ability to really move into income properties and user properties and things like that.
What do you think you were good at that time that all these years later still translates to new folks getting in the industry or brokers? Like what are the timeless lessons that haven't really changed?
Timeless lessons are to really do a lot of research and learn the values, because you become the expert. Somebody can get in real estate and be there 6 months, but if they spent their time, chasing a deal in an area to make a deal or 2 deals in an area, you become an expert. You have a chance to do a lot of business there, and over time, you're able to become an expert in so many different areas. It all comes together, and the dots connect.
Yeah. And in the farm and ranch, were most of the folks buying at that time speculating on the growth of DFW? Like, what was the play back then? When I hear of what'd you say, Davis Crow?
Davis Crow.
Was he speculating, or he just wanted a farm?
He was speculating.
Okay.
Yeah, he was speculating. He would buy and sell.
So how many of those deals that you did all those years ago, now they're towers, and like, could you have ever seen it coming?
All of them have houses.
Yeah.
All the way up to Salina.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davis, I remember the farm. I sold him up there. It was $155 an acre. And, $455 is a major development right now.
Yeah. You like Salina, right?
Like it a lot.
Why?
Massive growth.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best growth cities in the country.
Is everything going to keep going up in North Dallas? Like everything will just keep trickling North Dallas, or do you think we'll see more South growth?
It's more north.
Mm-hmm. Until we get to Oklahoma.
Yep, and they've just I just got information this morning that they are talking about going ahead and extend the toll road all the way up to the north. There's Legacy Hills up there, which is a 3,000 acre development with 7,000 houses and 4,900 apartments, and it's way up there. And the toll road will go all the way up. The access roads are up there, but they're talking about going ahead with the other center lanes and take the toll road all the way up, because it's growing so fast. Those people, if they don't do that, it'll take them 15, 20 minutes just to get down, or maybe more, just to get down to 380.
Yep. So in the 70s, you were working for Henry, and he gave you an opportunity to buy a quarter of Highland Park Village.
Yeah.
For $100,000.
Right.
I think the latest value, who knows what the latest valuation is?
Right. Probably latest is probably 400 million.
And you said, I'm too busy. I got too much going on.
No, what I told him, I said, Henry, I said, why are you buying this? I said, this is a horrible shopping center.
What?
Yeah, because in 1974, well, I'd moved out to University Park when I was 11 years old. So that was in 1950. So 10 years, I would ride my bicycle up to the Highland Park Village and the theater, and it was horrible. It was the Howard Foundation, which was a holding company for the property, neglected it, and shopping center weren't really booming at that time. That was a very early stage development, and I saw it deteriorate over the 10 years after I got out of college and went in the brokerage business, and it continued. And when Henry bought it in 1974, it was really, really bad. And I couldn't get tenants to go there. And he had the vision and foresight, but I didn't have it yet in the development. And it takes a long time to get that, to be a consistent, serial developer or purchaser, to see the vision and make the right decisions. And I didn't see it. And I told him, I said, let me think it over. And I actually started developing, and buying property 6 months after I was with Henry Miller Company. I take my commissions and put it in real estate deals. And because I would become the expert in that region, I would see something. Then what I would do is I would get a seller to take terms. I'd give them $1,000, $2,000 for a lot and give them, let me pay it out over 10 years. And that's how I started accumulating with a little bit of money assets, because I always felt I could make the payment to them out of my brokerage commissions, which I did. But I was, I just didn't have enough wisdom at that time. And I come back to Henry and I said, look, Henry, this property here, I've tried to make leases and nobody wants to be here. And I said, I'm making such a high return on the 7-Elevens I'm building. I said, but I'll lease it for you. And so I did. I didn't go in, and I leased it 2 times, and he was right and I was wrong. But I learned a lesson.
What changed? Where was the inflection point at Highland Park Village, just for a history real estate nerd?
Inflection point was there was Ken Hughes was with me, and he was a talented guy, and he and I worked on Highland Park together, and we brought in Ralph Lauren.
Okay.
And Ralph Lauren, the rents at the center were about $20, $25 a foot. Now, one lease, Ray Washburn told me he's made a deal at $800 a foot for a jewelry store. But around the lease is probably around $250, $300 over there now. And I was able to, that center just continued to change. But what changed was Ralph Lauren we had a percentage rent clause, and they did so much volume that they doubled the rent. So the new rent as we renewed them was $50, and that's where it took off from.
Okay.
And that's how Henry made changes, because it's a different period of time, and values, were increasing, and rents were increasing. And as we made higher rents, he was able to borrow more money, and he continued to refinance it. Most of the money went into remodels.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the center we know today is not what it looked like back in the
Not
70s.
at all. Not at all.
You said something. You just said it takes a while for people to have that wisdom to know how to see into the future.
Mm-hmm.
If you could condense, what does that mean? What do the best have? What does it take to see out into the future and be pretty confident in today?
Well, it takes time to gain all the knowledge that and that's current, and that you can see is the the demand is going to be at a site within a certain period of time because, people go broke because assets become illiquid and they have debt.
Right.
And so it's the roads, where the roads are going, the time of the roads. It's the subdivisions and how fast they're growing and how fast, and knowing what it takes people-wise, dollar-wise, for spending per capita to support a grocery store or a drugstore, which are the most prolific type of centers, the community shopping centers. The strip center, really was always there with the C-stores as anchors. I started off doing those.
Mm-hmm.
And those type of investments still today are very, very popular, and they're really a very good investment for a small investor to have in their portfolio, because each one of those might throw off, if it's free and clear, $150,000, $200,000 a year,
Yep.
which is really nice passive income.
Yep.
But on the vision side, it's about, the city was growing, and, most cities didn't grow like Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas is at the ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
And so you didn't really learn that in too many big cities.
Right.
And I was only in Texas.
Yeah.
So I was seeing it here and not exposed to exactly what had happened in other cities. And it took a longer time to really build up the confidence to go take on debt and think you're going to be right in Dallas, Texas. And then, you have the micro markets.
Right.
And the micro markets were little tiny towns. I mean, there were nothing.
Yeah.
And then as Dallas grew out to city limits, these micro markets began to grow, and that's really where so much of our activity's been over the last 25 years.
Yep. We're going to get into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Grubb and Ellis ends up buying Henry S. Miller. You go on to Grubb and Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just wanted to spend a little bit of time. I guess there was a decision made at Grubb and Ellis that they were going to demote you or take some of your decision-making power a little bit back. And it took you all of about 10 seconds to go, well, I'm out of here. I'm going to go start my own thing.
Well, here's what happened. First of all, it was a commitment. I believe in commitments. And Virginia Cook headed up the residential division. I headed up the commercial division.
Of Grubb and Ellis?
No, of Henry Miller.
Okay.
So we had the vote with Henry because we knew that he would never do anything without our opinion. So he sent us both, two of us, out to to the Grubb and Ellis board when they came in 1979 to merge. And we went out there and we sat out with all the, just amazing group of people that they were number two in California behind CBRE. CBRE was Coldwell Banker then, it wasn't CBRE. And we sat with the board, basically get down to the bottom line. They said, Herb, we hear you develop. I said, yeah, we do it. We bring in partners and all these people, get in deals with us. We manage it. It grows the Henry Miller Company. And we are able to, have great relationship with them. And a lot of these, proliferate into multifamily investments and also land investments. But yeah, that's what we do. And it's really a good program. I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, we, if a broker wants to develop here, we help them find an office, and we hope that they'll use us as a company to help them. I said, well, okay. Well, that was interesting. And so we got outside, finished the meeting, and I looked at Virginia, and she looked at me and said, well, this isn't going to work. And so we go back, and so it didn't work. We just went on our merry way. We told Henry, that was totally incompatible. And so
did he agree?
Yeah, of course he did. And yeah, of course he did. And he was, very supportive of me and very supportive of Virginia. And so that was it. So 5 years later, they came back and they said they wanted to talk and said, well, everything you told us you're doing, we want to do just like you. And broker wants to develop, well, as long as we don't have to put the money in, because the Grubb and Ellis company had gone broke. Ellis had gone broke, and because the company was over in Oakland, they moved it to San Francisco. And so he was anti-development. So they changed the policy, and I thought that it was good for Henry to cash out, because he basically was putting every penny back into the company, because of the growth that we were having. And I was bringing on a lot of people. He was financing all that. And so I think that that was a good thing. It was timely, because in a brokerage company, there might have been $1 million made or $1 million lost, or break even. Never any big number, because the costs are too high, and these cycles we were hitting. Ends up that we had a $10 million pre-tax year that year, and so on the 5 multiple, $50 million, and I thought it was a good opportunity. I was 10% owner. And I never thought that stock would be worth a penny. And so I found $5 million on the street, and Henry got cashed out. And then we owned stock in the company. And so we owned 45% of Grove Nellis, which was a American Stock Exchange company when we started, and then we went on New York Exchange. I went on the board. Henry, 5 of us went on the board. There were 10 of them, 5 of us, 15. And we were, there were 1,900 people. We were 1,700 at that point. So we were 3,600 in the company. And then we started buying companies: Atlanta, Miami, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, on and on. Got up to 9,000. I was the chairman of all the commercial retail in the country. I never moved from Dallas. And so I set up division heads in every region. And so the honeymoon started to end after about a year, when the market changed, and it wasn't a 10 million profit. It was down to 2 million. And then we started to lose. We lost for about 10 quarters, because with the Tax Reform Act, of '86. And it was, we merged in '84.
And you stayed till what, 90?
Stayed till 90. And what happened there is that they asked me, it was the no light at the end of the tunnel. It was March of '89. And I was, I'd been on the board almost 5 years, was finishing up. And in fact, I had just gotten off the board, at that time. And they came in and said, "We're changing things. We don't think you guys know how to run a company." And here, we were in the real estate depression in Texas. East Coast, it wasn't affected. The West Coast wasn't affected. And so they didn't fully understand it. And they changed some things, and they said, we're going to run the company from California. And that wasn't the deal. It was a family of companies, because all these companies we bought had great leaders, and they woven themselves into the fabrics of all these communities and cities that they were operating in. And Ellis didn't pay attention to that. Had a big ego, and there were a few other things that kind of affected his ego that caused him to say, "Okay, I'm going to consolidate everything out here in San Francisco." And it took me 30 seconds to say, "If you can do that, I'm leaving." I had grown the commercial. Actually, I had grown my development company and management company. Had 125 people, and during this period, I reduced it down to 75. I was up above. Henry gave me the floor. I was still running the commercial operation of the company, and my operation became the biggest customer of Henry Miller Company. Every commission, every deal done was run through Henry Miller. Totally compatible. And it was amazing. I mean, it took a guy that big to let me do something like that, and it was wonderful, but then when it became something that they were breaking the word, they didn't understand what was happening in Texas. Then I decided to leave, and my people thought it was April 4th,
Up until that point, had you not thought about leaving and starting your own deal? Like you were fully committed to being part of a larger company?
I was planning to do that, but I had separated everything. I got I was on my own accounting system. I had my people up on a separate floor and everything. And I liked Hal Ellis. I liked the team, and I thought, but what happened is that I think he made some bad decisions.
Real quick, why did it not affect the coast, but it affected Texas?
Because it was the savings and loan problem in Texas.
Okay.
Savings loans. There was fraud, with Faulkner starting out there, out east of San Bradford Lake and Rockwall, and it just proliferated through a lot of the multifamily, development and the type of loans they were getting. Get his name, who's the head of the savings and loan that made loans, and the fraud was they thought they owned the savings loan. They put up 3%. It's 97 that was government money, so they thought that they could go ahead and charge 6 points for a loan and give you 100% loan, and then I'm gonna lend you the 8%. I'm gonna lend you the fee, and you pay me back, and I take it as income.
Mm-hmm.
And that took the savings loan down. And so that was the big thing. Everybody was taking savings loan money but me.
For anybody that thinks we've gone through a real estate recession over the last couple of years, what does the last couple of years compare to what you remember about 86 to 90?
Nothing. It's a zero. It's a blip on the radar screen.
This is a blip on the radar screen.
In fact, what we learned in 86 to 90, we changed everything, structure of the company, the financial structure, and what when 08 came 18 years later, after we got out of it in 1990, we were just it was not even we'd covered the cracks in the armor, where we were exposed, and we made it through without any problem, and going through this last cycle here has not been a problem.
You think 86 to 90 could happen again, or was it something about the way things were back then that really
anything can happen? Yeah. I think you listen to Jamie Dimon. Most important thing is be liquid. You got to be able to go through these cycles, and real estate is fragile if you got a bad recession or depression.
A lot of debt.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point in that 4 or 5 years where you're like, man, I just want to get into a new industry? This isn't any fun.
Never had time to think about it because I was the biggest problem was the 86 to 90 when Tremble Crow and Lincoln Property Company and all these companies that were building, growing, and the market was really had going into this cycle was really good, and they all became liquid. And Tremble restructured his company, Lincoln restructured their company, I restructured my company. Didn't take bankruptcy, was able to trade assets with the bank and get everything worked out, and got cleaned up with the banking system very quickly.
Because you had like $170 million of loans going into that period.
I did, and it was just about all with Republic Bank, and that's when Richard, remembered Richard Rainwater's conversation with me a year before in '88, and this was now in '89, and I left Grubb & Ellis, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I had everything pretty much separated, now up on the upper floor from what Miller's office, and the first thing I did was call Richard after I met with my team. Said, let's see if he has any interest, because he had already done a deal with Staubach, and come in and with Roger to buy the assets out of the bank. And he, as a result of that, he would own a percentage of the company, of all the assets that I had. And then also he would have a interest in the properties going forward. And Richard never wanted to own the majority of any company. He always just wanted to be there with an active partner and somebody he had confidence in to grow the company. And so we struck a deal. He came, it was the week of July 4th, and his wife was up in the Hamptons, and he came over on a Saturday and a Sunday at my house, and we struck a deal. And he was going to own 12.5%.
He didn't end up owning it.
Not what he said. He said, look, if you ever do the deal without me, he said, that's fine, Herb. He said, but this is my deal. And this is pretty much what he did with Roger. And Roger and I communicate and friend today, and because he worked with Miller, and when he was with Miller, we were friends. And so, so we, what happened is he comes back to me after about, 4 months of negotiating with the bank, and the bank wants $90 million as a settlement, and he's at 75, and he comes in and he says, Herb, I'm not, getting the deal done with these guys. And I was shocked. I thought he was going to make the deal, it's somewhere, maybe a little shy of 90, but it was going to get done. And that was it. But through all those meetings, us first meeting with Jim Irwin, the head of the bad bank, and from that first meeting, we went there, and 13 people were there, and I said, "Why is this many people here?" And everybody wanted to see, meet Richard Rainwater. They didn't know him, and he spoke, about me being a 25-year customer, making all this money for the bank. And I told him after, I said, I wish my mother could have heard that, and being such a, just a wonderful, wonderful backing to enter into these negotiations. But when he couldn't do it, dejected, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And in the negotiations, the bank said they were never going to take back. They were going to take it. They didn't want any land. They just didn't want any land because the land was just dropping. It was liquid. It was the worst. And so, about 4 weeks after that was such a shock to the Republic Bank. They came to me, and I got a phone call from the bank and said, "Look, we'll make a deal with you at 85, and we will take back any assets you have. We'll take back any land," and that was it. And I made the deal myself with the bank.
Did you make the deal because you had to make the deal, or you just felt like it was the smartest option?
Had to make it.
Yeah.
Had to make it.
Were there any I'm sure you said I didn't have time to think about anything else. When did you realize, like heading into that whole thing, was everything chugging along and then all of a sudden like the floor fell out, or could you see it coming for a while? I'm talking about maybe leading into 86.
It was onward and upward. After saving on deregulation, 81, 82, things got 83, 84, 85. It was really ramping up, and everybody was developing. Money was plentiful and everything. And then it was like February of 86 was when the Tax Reform Act was passed. It didn't grandfather any write-offs, and that was just a cutoff. So everyone had a bad loan.
Yeah.
And because the properties were overvalued because they weren't getting they were taking tax write-offs off of all the interest, and you couldn't. It was no more write-off of the interest, and it was dollar for dollar at that time, and that's what happened to land syndication. Yeah. Everybody put money in land and take a dollar for dollar write-off on their ordinary income. So that was a turning point. That's where it started. Then the deal started to fail. I mean, I went to auction after auction, and when the RTC was formed to handle all the disposition of all these assets.
So when you signed the deal with the bank at $85 million, were you really optimistic now that was behind you? Or was it kind of like, shit, I'm going to have to work my ass off for a long time to get out of a hole? Or did you kind of feel like restart, let's go back and get it all back?
Well, I had before in 94, this was just 4 years late after 90, after I got out, I was going to take the company public and form a REIT. So I had 92.
Weitzman?
Yeah. It's 92 properties. and it's a 325 million market cap. And so when I got out, I needed capital, so I had to sell some really great assets to generate capital to operate. But then I was looking forward to growing it. Well, what happened is when I went public with Goldman Sachs, they were taking me out, and the market turned, and that's when first of the REITs were coming out. Simon went out, JBJ, a few others, and the rates were going up. The dividend rates were going up that you had to sell at, and it was going to cost me too much as they were increasing. They said, "Well, let's just wait a few months." So I waited 6 months, and they called me back and they said, "Well, 9.5." I was going out at 8. They said 9.5. It was too costly, and I didn't need at that time. I didn't need. Uh, I I had really started. The market turned good after 90, and we started doing okay on the brokerage side, and started leasing up the properties, and so I was I didn't go public. I pulled it off the shelf and stayed private. Never had to worry about capital. And shortly after that, I went into a partnership with GE Capital for 16 years. Was their shopping center partner in the country. They came to me and asked me because I was a small borrower with them, and they liked us, and so we just bought a lot over those 16 years, and I was able to. They gave me a chance to recap them. So on most of those assets, I was able to recap and bring in new partners, and I stayed with them. They got out and took earnings.
Have you always been the chief capital raiser, or do you have people on your team? You own a lot, so to take out GE Capital, is it you always bring in the new partners, or how do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I bring in partners a lot. Yeah, I do. And it's just that's how we grow. Rather than being public and taking money through the public market, I bring in somebody like GE Capital who's there and they're on the committee with and bring two of their people on the committee with me. They're wanting to invest, and so it's very very fluent, and by me, if I'd have gone public, I mean, I talked to some of these guys after 15 years that they owned the company. They diluted and diluted and diluted. They might own 3% of the stock.
Right.
I still own 100% of my company. Now I don't own everything in the partnerships. I love the partnerships, and people have been with me, in different levels. I mean, individuals. I might have families with me for 3 generations.
Yep.
And then with people like GE or USAA or Phoenix Capital or Thackeray Fund or all these companies, I mean, we have great relationship with them. These are great partners. And so it is much less expensive because we operate entrepreneurially rather than having to report and have all these people to deal with all these REIT laws.
All right, so we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. So it's been a little over 30 years since 90. Y'all now it looks like you have a retail portfolio of about 44 million feet. Why have you always chosen to stay in Texas? It doesn't really appear to me like y'all are outside of Texas. Is that true?
That's true.
I'm assuming you have had all the opportunity in the world to go across the country, and why have you chosen not to do that?
Texas has been so great. It's been so active. We've had a hard time catching our breath.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could have set up divisions outside of Texas. And when I was, in Grubb & Ellis, I had all these people, I mean, Phoenix and Colorado and Florida, that I had great relationship with these people, in the company and the brokers. But I think that real estate, you have to stay real close to, the action and real close to the properties. And I saw Trammell, Henry Miller was best friends with Trammell Crow, and they were 2 floors over our office. And so I did business with them through different categories because I spent a lot of time early on in industrial properties. And they were heavy in industrial, and I got to know Trammell, and I saw him. He came to me to be his partner in retail, to take and grow all over the country. And I didn't do it for one reason, and that was because the partners that ran those cities, you all the assets that would be in that city would be crossed. And when I was doing with Henry, starting off, it was not crossed. Every asset stood on its own. So that was a reason I decided not to do that with Trammell. But also, I wasn't in love with just going all these other cities and being under the control of somebody who covers that region.
Right.
And so I passed on that. And I think that that model that he had, he got spread out so much that they really didn't know what they were buying, and they had such a hard time. And so I saw that, and I really realized that if I could just be and Trammell was encouraged Henry Miller to go we were just in Dallas to go to these other cities. So I took the company with my division to Houston, San Antonio, Austin. So I got to know those cities, and I was still in Miller. And so, but I was had development operation in those cities and everything. And I was able to just see that Texas by that time was really, really growing, and we just needed to gain market share in every city.
Yep.
And that's what we did, rather than getting spread out. And I learned early by going over with Kroger over to Paris, Texas, and Texarkana, that I was driving there and driving back, and Henry Miller was in Dallas. I was taking care of all the leasing. It just didn't make sense. Got it done, learned a lesson early, very early. And the consolidating your activity in a major city that's growing, it just checked all the boxes. Because I have a philosophy that through the brokerage company, that's where you learn the market. Take care of the customer first, and do your research. You become an expert. So that's a tattoo that's on my back. Take care of your customer and learn the market.
As we look at Texas just today,
Mm-hmm.
Are you as bullish on Texas today as you've ever been?
More so.
Oh, why?
Mm-hmm. Well, nobody talks about the oil. You don't hear anybody talking about the oil much.
That's a dirty word these days.
Yeah, I know it's a dirty word, but they're the largest reserves in the world. So I kind of think that even though they're talking about moving to all E cars by 35, they still got to keep some running. So you might not be able to buy one. It's a gas guzzler.
What data from a retail perspective do you see? And we can chat about. Everybody thought that retail was dead. It's not dead, is it?
Not dead at all, and it's really better than ever. But I can't talk too much about it because I'm going to invite you over to January 11th. We do an annual forecast, and it's over at the Bush Library.
Okay,
about 450 people, everybody connected heavily to retail and commercial. You'll see a lot of guys there, and we just finished our survey. I was actually going through the draft of last night, and it's awesome.
I can't wait to hear it.
So maybe I can come over with you, or you come over with me,
Okay.
and we talk about the forecast, because it's the best we've ever done. And I've got one of the most exciting guys in the country coming in to do a one-on-one dialogue with me.
Oh,
we always
really?
have a fireside chat. These people that I've had fireside chats with are just great. Chairmans of Neiman's, chairman of Penny's, Craig Hall, Ross Perot, different guys, mayor, things like that. There's vital interest to everybody that's there. They come, we want to give them a lot to take home. And now I've got the top guy with JP Morgan in the world. He's over their alternative investments, and about 180 billion he runs. He's an awesome guy. Went up to New York and met him a week and a half ago, and I think it's going to be great.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So he's
is this an official invite?
It's official. He's kind of a futurist. So there'll be some question and answer period, and but just hear the question, hear the answers, everybody's going to really gain a lot, because this guy is buying all over the world, with their alternative investments. So he's really, really great.
What's kind of your management or leadership philosophy on on new men and women kind of getting into the brokerage business?
Well, we have always, we're the first at Hibbert Miller to bring in women in commercial. And that's really been a great decision. And we've got some great women in brokerage. In fact, even in like our management of the properties, we have probably about 30 managers there in Dallas, and they're probably 97% women now. It used to be all men, and it's just really good at it. And so that's a change. And with the young people, we love to train people our way. If they can grow and do everything they want to do, be a partner, go into a partnership with the company, and even the only thing you can't do is just have their name on the sign. It costs too much to replace those 2,000 signs I got in Dallas. Yeah. So we love to train and bring them in, and they really turn out good. Some of them do, some don't.
How can you tell if someone's not going to turn out?
Well, they don't take it seriously. They don't have a passion. They taking shortcuts. They're not competing well. We named our company named the real estate school at University of Texas Dallas. There's 800 students in the business school. Business school's got 11,000 now, and it's ranked number 10 in the country in public universities.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're real active there. So, but we hire out of about 7 universities in Texas primarily. We prefer to hire somebody that says, "I'm going to come to your company," and they might be at A&M, but I'm from Houston, so we'd like to say, "We'll hire you, but we'd like you to go to Houston, where you know that market, you feel comfortable in that market." Any market's good in Texas. They're all good. They're all Austin's awesome. It's just phenomenal. And we're in a conversation with head of real estate in this region for Whole Foods this morning, early on, and just talking about Texas and they're based in Austin and the growth and so forth. So it's just the place to be, and the young people are going to keep coming here because the laws are good, and the corporations now it's turned into a financial center of the country, second to New York. But even Dallas, DFW Texas has more people from J.P. Morgan, largest bank in the world, than in New York. They got 30,000 here and 28,000 up there now, and they're hiring more here. Wells is coming here, tons of people. So distribution, manufacturing, electronics, universities, it's good.
Good.
Checking all the dots.
All right. Speaking of checking all the dots, what makes like a good retail deal? And I know there's different types of retail.
Yeah.
And what do people get wrong that you see over and over when you drive by and you're like, I cannot believe they did that. We would never do that.
They turn center backwards.
Okay, what's that mean?
They turn it. They face it the wrong way. When money was flowing out of savings loans in the early 80s, and people were getting money, they never had built one. I mean, they built them backwards. They built it where the stores would face inward and have no visibility of the street.
What were they thinking?
That's a good question. They weren't thinking. They were just getting money shoveled at them, and they thought they just would go build something.
Okay, so it's got to face the street. What else? There's got to be something else.
Well,
to it.
The better centers have the better anchors.
Okay,
and you'll see a lot of centers that are really messed up, and you have to build the center to the socioeconomic area of the trade area. If it's high, you got to go high. If it's medium, you got to go low or above. You got to go medium. You got to go above medium. If it's low, you got to go above low. You got to do the best you can in quality of merchants and price points for the market you're serving.
Yep.
Now, restaurants have saved the community center business because it was a transition of bigger retail stores, jewelry stores and big shoe stores and some nice apparel that were in the community centers. Most of those went to the power centers, And the power center it's was it about 23 years old. I mean, it started in 1990. So that's 30 years old. And so that's where most of the bigger stores went, and they took a lot of business from the department stores, kind of gnawed at the underbelly of the department store business. That's why they're weak right now. But they also, ended up with some of the community centers. So the community center stores went there just because there was more traffic and they were bigger. But finally, we re-tenanted those by 3 categories. One was restaurants, 2 were medical, and then 3 were about 250 categories of service tenants. With a grocery store, it serves a real purpose, for people to get what they need, necessities close by, and now, the community centers are doing great. I mean, there's 74 million feet in DFW, and it's 96% occupied. Yeah, Fort Worth's got 40 million feet of community centers.
What's the difference between kind of suburban retail and then like retail you'd find in uptown urban retail?
Well, urban retail, a lot of urban retail is on the ground level of the apartment houses or the office buildings. You can't, something that happened, there's a little nice little retail strip across from the Crescent on McKinney Avenue. That was built a long time ago when prices were really, really cheap. But today, around my office building, there's been property sale at least $500 a foot. So you can't build a retail. It's a adjunct to something else today.
Right.
It's something that the city requires maybe to have 10,000 feet of retail in your space. They want walkability, or they require affordable housing and some bigger apartment projects.
Yeah.
So we can't where you end up with retail in uptown or urban is you buy another building that's already there.
Right.
And you pay a top price for it.
Do you prefer one over the other?
Yeah, buy.
Buy, don't develop.
Buy, don't develop. You can't. The numbers don't work. In fact, the numbers don't even work today. We're building 4 million feet, and if we didn't
You're building 4 million right
4
now?
4 million feet, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we're really active. I mean, we're you want to get a little. You want me to tell you a little bit about what they are?
Yeah.
San Antonio got 112 acres at the intersection of the Outer Loop and 35, good corner. And we have Ikea in 300,000 feet now. We have Floor Decor. We're making a deal with the House of Sports, which is, you haven't seen one here yet. It's 120,000 feet. That's the great new concept that Dick's Sporting Goods has created. And there's only 12 in the country that have been open. And we are making one there in the center. We have a restaurant park, with DJ Brewery, Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, and strips and so forth. Now, we got a gym that's going to go in there, 40,000 foot gym. Okay. That's 1 million feet that's going to be. That Ikea serves all the way down to the Mexican border. So it's a barn burner. And then we have a 500,000 feet over on Interstate Highway 10, which is a growth area there in San Antonio. And that's going to have 550,000 feet. And we have a Walmart superstore there. Then we have some other stores built. We're just doing it in phases because we have the land free and clear. If we had to go and buy that land and pay the price that land costs today and not know when you're going to get an answer, I mean, it's a good path to go broke.
How long have you owned that land?
Long time.
Like more than 5 years?
Yeah. Probably 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Bought it from, one of the servicing companies.
Okay.
Yeah. So got it. I think at that, the purchase price on it going in for that was $3.15 a foot.
It's probably worth a little more than that.
But it was the nastiest piece of land you've ever seen. In fact, the Joris, the large site construction company that we hired to clear the land, and when you saw that, it was shrubs and snakes, and all kinds of stuff in there. And And this guy that says, he says, I want to tell you, Herbie, he says, I live nearby and I never noticed this site here before. It's the southwest corner of this, a generational corner because it was such a mess.
Right.
And so, but cleaned up with roads and everything's beautiful now. Then in Houston, we have a project downtown of Manville, which is 288 south of the medical center, about 20 minutes. And you have a highway at the corner of Highway 6 that goes over to Sugar Land, and we're building $1 million there. We just opened HEB, and we have Lowe's going in with home improvement, a bunch of restaurants going in, and it's being built in phases, probably 2 or 3 phases. We had to put the whole district in. We had to put the water sewer plant in, which I never had any experience of doing, and we put the roads in. We got a lot of incentive money, but we got to go sell the bonds to get that money back.
Right.
Don't recommend it for anybody, but we're in it, and we assembled that land over about a 12-year period. It was assembled in 10-acre tracts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, when we're talking about Ikea, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's serving all the way down to the border.
Uh-huh.
Is Ikea out in the market looking at different? How do you get Ikea in your deal? I'm sure everybody wanted Ikea in their deal.
Yeah, everybody wants Ikea, but I think that they slowed down their development. This is probably one of the last deals Ikea did.
Okay.
Now in South Lake, they just put in an Ikea internet store where you can digitally order anything in the store in a 10,000-foot store that just went into Park Village right there next to the shops at South Lake. By the way, shops at South Lake is one center we built with Central Market.
Okay.
Great center.
You still own it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever sell?
Not much.
Not much.
No.
Okay.
Don't have to.
Okay, but how'd you get Ikea?
Ikea?
The 300,000 footer.
Yeah, went to them, and so we didn't build for them. They wanted to come in San Antonio, and we won about 4 sites, and we got them, and we sold them 30 acres, and they own 30 acres out of the 112 acres.
So they'll 100% own their own property.
Yeah, but we ended up entering into a development agreement with them, and it got an incentive agreement with the city that city gave us $27 million for, because we had all this cost in the roads and the development cost. And so that worked out good. So we split that with Ikea. So we end up, just because we got Ikea, we got $13.5 million goes toward our expenses.
When you think about those huge, massive developments with all those tenants, how much of that is Weitzman being in the market for so long that you can pick up the phone and just call those tenants and start knocking them down versus any guy that has a lot of money that goes and buys a big tract of land? Could they pull it off the same way, or does it take retail's real interesting in that you got to know the tenants? And every big retailer I know, a retail landlord, my buddy owns $30, $40 Generals. They own tons of this. They can just pick up the phone and get another one done. How much of that for y'all on these massive sites is kind of already knowing who the tenants are going to be and just picking up the phone and making it happen?
That's about 98% of it.
That's the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the relationships that, because we're heavily in the brokerage business, and we bring partners into these transactions. So we're the sponsor, and we have relationships with all these people, and in fact, I just came from a meeting, we got a meeting Wednesday with a company that's wanting us to just getting prepped on one of the major, national chains, wanting us to JV with them and be a partner with them. So, those are, you just earn those things. I mean, that's just being here, being available, doing a good job all the time. Main thing is they make money with us.
Right.
Yeah, because we really focus on tenant. We'll keep a space vacant and go after the right tenants that we know whether there's cross-selling done. And everybody does better rather than just put in some off-color use or some X-rated store or stuff like that. Something that we typically don't put surplus at all in the center. We have Goodwill in, and Goodwill's turned out to be, because of change and and how second generation clothes are looked at. I mean, the young people, it's the style. So they become a tenant in a lot of these centers, particularly in Austin.
So you have to pay attention to the brands and walk in their other stores and get to really know them.
Sure.
You're as much a retailer from a perspective of a customer as you are their landlord.
Yeah.
You have to know what'll work and what won't work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm calling them up all the time, telling them, hey, your sign's not looking good at night. And said, what? It's looked good in the day. I said, yeah, but when the light goes on at nighttime, all you see is all black. Something's gone wrong with your system up there. They didn't know it because they're not there at nighttime. And then, we just give them suggestions. I remember going in a Kroger in South Arlington, and they wanted me to look at a remodel job they did. And so I go there and go through one door, then I go through another door, then I have to go through another door to get inside. And I call up the head. I said, I don't know if you meant to do this, but I said, I got to go through 3 doors to get in your front door. He said, really? I said, well, let me go check. He calls me back and says, you're right. He says, they built that whole thing wrong. So, we're always having that type of conversation with them.
You still drive around and look at your centers?
All the time. I drive Saturday just to look at, land and areas that are growing and so forth.
That's what you do on Saturdays?
Yeah, I do a lot of that. Saturday afternoon. First thing I do is I get out and go biking with my buddies around White Rock.
You still bike?
Oh, almost every day.
Speaking of working out, there's a story somebody told me here that said, I heard Herb would run on the track early in the mornings for exercise in the dark, and his junior brokers would have to run with him. Ask him if it was to discuss their business plan or if he was just teaching them to exercise.
I was talking about their business plan.
Okay.
Yeah, we ran for years, probably 18 years up at SMU. Meet up here at 5:45 in the morning. Rain, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Rain, tornado, hurricane, we're there. And so we get out there, but the guys would always want to talk. And I said, come on out. So first lap, they were really good, having a good conversation. Second lap, slowed down. Third lap, almost nothing. Fourth lap, they were dying.
So they
quit after the fourth lap.
They got good at telling their business plan pretty concise, get it done in that first lap, or you're
right.
never going to get it
or
done.
You're not going to be able to handle it. But we did that a lot. In fact, I don't know why we quit, but that something happened.
When you think about just what's gone on with construction prices and pricing, how have y'all adapted to it? Or like what comes to your mind when I tell you like construction prices are up?
Well, as I have mentioned, prices numbers don't work with interest rates go up to 8.5%, from 3 to 4, and costs have gone up. Before we went into this rise in interest rate, we just finished a building in San Antonio for $48 a foot for a strip, and now it costs $150. See, so you can see that the retailers certainly are not proactive in increasing their rents.
Yeah,
they don't do that. They give you tremendous resistance until they realize they can't get any stores because the numbers don't work.
Right.
So they have to pay more to get a deal done.
Yep.
It's still working. And they're still in this morning with this head of the region in a grocery chain came in to talk, said their prices are still going up. One of the major chains that you buy groceries at. That's the situation right now that, and here's what's happened. We were really doing well going to 19, but when the pandemic hit, really things really stopped. And what happened is we've been through so many cycles, and a lot of guys really dropped off after the cycle. They decided couldn't make a deal work. They got into other categories, or they dropped out of the business.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they didn't have some money. They sold everything, but they just didn't want to put it back at risk. And I don't blame them because the numbers weren't working.
Yep.
And so they now are, it's a smaller group that's developing. And if you're cold, if you haven't been in the market with contractors repricing, changing, from steel to wood frame or whatever you're exploring, what happened? Most of them when they found they had $300,000 or $400,000 a month overheads, and no deals, they start cutting their people.
Right.
So what happens is they've lost their capability.
Yep.
And now there's not a lot of deals out there.
Right.
See, so for them to go build it back up, they don't have any pipeline of deals. So right now, the market is in the best condition it's been in ever because of no new building or very little new building, and the occupancy is so great.
Right.
Because of the densification that's taken place, every year for the last 10 years, 150, 200,000 people moving here. So it's really good, but then you still can't build because the rents are gradually going up to make the deals work.
Right.
So we'll see. There's a lot of deals planned now, but anything could happen.
Right.
Interest rates aren't going to come down as fast as people think, and we don't know about cost. It's a lot of questions. So there's the anchors are going to be driving it pretty much, and then if somebody goes and builds, they're just trying to pay their overhead and selling, and hopefully they're going to make some money
right
at the end.
When you said the anchors drive it, you just mean a big anchor absolutely needs something and they'll make the economics work for a developer.
Yeah. And that's where you win by owning the land.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go. You got accrual there, but you can play with that accrual, which means you don't owe it to a bank.
So what's your land strategy? You'll just go to an investor and say, look, we think this is great land. It's a ways out and we're just going to land bank it for X amount of years until the right development comes to us.
Yeah. They're long-term players.
Because you said 11 or 12 years.
Well, that's sometimes. Yeah.
But that's always the plan.
Sometimes you'll see somebody that maybe has the nod from one of the big users to go. They'll do that occasionally. And but they're all expanding so slow, except HEB, and HEB buys everything.
So when you're taking a big piece of land out of your portfolio and developing it, are you always looking to kind of replenish your land position? Are you always kind of buying some more? Yeah. Is there any formula to it, or
no
just kind
formula?
of whatever?
We're just trying to keep up the growth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference. It can be out 30 east or 30 west or north or southwest or something. We try to stay in areas where people want to be.
If we were sitting here 10 years from now, like if you really think of Frisco, I mean, it's probably more like 14 years ago, but Frisco was goat pasture not too long ago.
Right.
And now it's Is there any other areas of DFW, if we were sitting here 10 years from now, that said, you aren't going to believe what's going to happen to this place over the next 10 years? What's something to get excited about around DFW?
Well, I think you take probably 180 degrees and you go out 30 east and you go all the way around in a fan that goes over toward, East Plano and all of Plano and all of Frisco. And then you go on over to the areas west of 35, you going over to, the 377, you go up to Aubrey, you go up all the way over to the mid-cities. And then, you have all those areas around Fort Worth that they're growing, to the west. And you can't buy them all. You just have to go pick where you think is the best value and where it's most likely to happen for the retailer to come in.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they really want to buy, so they really don't want you to be buying the land. So that's why we buy before, because if you're out there, with a good site, you have a lot of leverage to make a deal with them.
Right.
On a lease.
Why do they usually want to own? Just because?
Because it's cheaper. They all have development capability, and they can build and own and keep it, or they can turn around and put a rent on it, cap it and sell it, make money.
So like when Ikea buys that 30 acres from you, how much of a say do you have in the design of their building or the layout? Or
we have say in the layout. I don't know of Ikea that they have that they've leased. In fact, I brought Target to Texas, and I did about 70 deals with them, and they after we had done a lot of deals, they said, "Can you develop with us?" I said, "Yeah." So we built a bunch of centers with them. Still have them with Target, but they want to. They Target want to own. Target didn't want to. I don't know of a deal that they leased until I think I was the first ground lease they made, which was in a center in Austin called Capitol Plaza. But we tore down a Montgomery Ward building on 35 by the university, and they have a ground lease there. Now they've gone more into ground leases because these cities are so people just won't sell to them. If they have a great site, people want to make a lease, a ground lease with them.
Amazon, I guess, has been around long enough, and that everybody thought Amazon was just going to wipe out everybody. That's clearly hadn't been true.
Hadn't been true.
Retail's actually not dead. Is there anything that comes to mind by way of innovation in the space, or how retailers are now thinking that will change the way we, as consumers, interact with retail over the next 10 years? Or is it mostly going to be some of the same stuff? Like, is there any groundbreaking innovation coming that the common guy like me, not in real retail, would just not be thinking about?
Well, I can't. The next wave is AI, and I don't know. My people are playing with it right now, but I don't know how it's going to affect the customer.
Yep.
But the Amazon merger, that was with John Mackey there. Nobody even
with Whole Foods.
Yeah, Whole Foods. Nobody could even tell that Amazon was their partner. I mean, owned the company, because they left it so autonomous. But I think they're getting into it now, and I think that they're going to make they know more about the food industry. And a guy that came up, with Mackey, who was the chief operating officer, he really understands the people and what the young people like. So he's carrying the flag, and I think that's a good thing. However, I think that with their capability with Amazon, they're going to be doing some unique things. They do a tremendous job inside the stores. They do so many renovations of take over other buildings, and like in New York, they maybe have 11 stores there now, and they are in renovations of department stores or whatever, or parking garage over in Jersey. They've got real capable on taking things and make them original.
Right.
Yeah. H-E-B's good at that too. Kroger and Tom Thumb aren't. They're, get one model, one interior motif, they follow it. You can go over to Live Oak, where they put some funky stuff in there because it's over there in that area near Deep Elm. And so they've got graphics and stuff like that. And I think the president says, look, I didn't even go to them get an estimate. He said, I knew they weren't going to approve it. I just told them to do it. So it's funky stuff in that one right there on Live Oak, just east of town.
So you think Amazon's bought Whole Foods? They've just kind of been, obviously they've been an active owner, but they've more been collecting data, understanding how it all works. And you think we'll see more from them over the next decade than we saw from them in the decade since they've owned it?
Yeah, I think what they'll see, and one of the big things they're going to see is they're going to see their capital. They're going to be able to do things because they didn't have that much money, to spend on certain things. And now
Whole Foods will.
Yeah, Whole Foods will be able to have to do things, and they're ramping back up. To be a growth company now, and so we'll see how that goes. But it takes a long time to do one of their stores. I mean, they've been in deals on this conversion and all this type of stuff that they do. Some stores take 6 or 7, 8 years to do until it gets open. Yeah.
How many Whole Foods have you done?
We've only done 2.
Do you want to do more?
I'd like to, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're not prolific. So what happens is, it's hard to it's been so long, you can't go spend a lifetime on a deal. You got a ticker. Anytime you touch a piece of dirt, you're either it's got accrual or it's got an interest rate. on it, and you have to. It's not free.
Yeah.
So you have to get these deals done. And if you miss one, you got to be able to carry it.
You think delivery is going to keep ramping up, whether it's food delivery, all this other delivery? I mean, we had food delivered last night. I mean, it was when you really think about the additional cost to the cost of if you just go pick it up, it's getting pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
You think the trend is more delivery, or do you think we're realizing that if the VCs aren't subsidizing a lot of this delivery cost, it's actually pretty expensive to take it at home? And I'm not talking about Amazon. I'm talking about delivery from your grocery store, deliver from your typical retail tenant.
No, I don't think. I think the after the pandemic, I think people really like going back to the stores. I mean, we saw restaurants, get used to where people would eat on the patio. Well, what we did, we went to every shopping center, and we talked to the restaurants, and we gave them patio. The patio cost $2,500. I put the railing up, and we gave them that free, because to see people sitting out and also increasing their sales with those extra seats out on the patio, it's been great for the community center.
Yep.
And they have got so many people that want to, they have some enclosed, but they have fans and they have heaters. But I like to eat out on the patio a lot.
Yeah.
First of all, sometimes it's like quiet. You have a better conversation. I mean, Nick and Sam is across the street from our front door, and we go there a lot. And I tell you, it's jammed every night. It's kind of hard to talk.
Yep.
They don't have any patio, but it's iconic.
Yep.
And so I think that the retail, the online buying has kind of it went up to 20%. It's come down now, and but people like to buy and like to get a present.
Yep.
They like, my wife, I think, just likes to have something that is delivered to her, and it's like comes in like a present. It makes you feel good. I got something today. I think there's some psychology to it.
I don't disagree with that.
Uh-huh. I don't know if the guys like that much, but the women just love it.
I have a
because they're the 87% of the shoppers anyway.
It's Nick and Sam's, and then there was Nick and Sam's Grill next door, right? Are they both still open?
And it's Nick and Sam's. It never had a grill. It was all.
But didn't they open up a second restaurant?
Yeah, out on Preston Road.
Okay.
They closed it.
Okay.
Yeah, they just have the one, and it does a lot.
The main steakhouse.
Yeah. And now with Heinz growing across the street from us, took the Maple Terrace building. I don't know if you're over there. It's now turned into an office building, and they built a 26-story apartment building right behind it.
Yeah.
And they put under construction Catch, which is out of Aspen, seafood right there. And then right on the other front of the building, Dos Mesos, and that's Mexican food. So now that's becoming the hot corner in Uptown, and I'm on the other corner. Before it was homeless people and things when I first moved in 33 years ago. But now it's turned out to be the major corner in Uptown.
Do you own the office building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to end up being a good deal.
It's a good deal.
But it's not for sale.
Well, we paid it off, and now we put a little debt on it, and we've remodeled the whole building.
All right. Maybe my final question really is just, what does work look like for you today? You've been in this industry for a long time. You've seen a lot. It appears to me after our conversation today, you're as energized about it as ever.
Yeah.
So what does work look like?
Work is enjoyable, immensely enjoyable. Fun is like me going, like I am Saturday, to get on the ski slopes.
Yeah.
Or go down to Galveston where I have a condo and walk in rubbing sand and my toes in the sand. But it's just so enjoyable, to be a part with the team. It's all about team, and all the young people that, sometimes they look at you, like deer in headlights when you talk to them, but they finally get it and see them grow. And then, we have so many great clients that we just, love to take care of.
Yeah.
And I think we're so blessed just to be in a city like, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth that has so much growth to them, where, it gives somebody the opportunity to really reach a potential if they want to.
Yep.
And, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And so most of the students, I'll sit there, and I teach a little bit up there at the real estate school at UTD. And, some of them having a hard time understanding how to be entrepreneurial, because things are so big, things take so much money. So I got to break it down to how little bite chips, how you start off and you gain little chips and they'll collect more chips and the chips get bigger. And then you learn more and you have to do it. You have to take step by step in this business because there's a lot of legal that you have to know and so forth. But, that's all part of every day. I come in sometimes and I got a day plan back to back and then so many different things happen, and it's interesting. It's challenging. Now, at some point in time, I'm get tired, but, still got a lot of energy and, love what I do, love making deals, creative part of putting deals together. Still like that. I'm not too good at just sitting.
Yeah.
I'm more of a doer.
Yep.
Yeah. And, so we built some great friendships out of this too. Just lifelong friends. I don't know anything better than that.
You've done a remarkable job.
Well, thanks.
Herb, thanks for joining me today.
Well, enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you, Albert. Thank you for having me.